Hi everyone. My name's Sarah and I'm a student intern here at Fashion Mingle. Welcome to this month's Student Mingle Social, where we have special guest fashion blogger Joanna Faith Williams. To stay up to date with the socials, make sure to follow fashionmingle.student on Instagram, and while you're there, make sure to make a Student Mingle profile. Hi everyone, I'm Sarah. I'm a student intern here at Fashion Mingle. Welcome everyone to this month's Student Mingle Social, where we have special guest fashion blogger Joanna Faith Williams.
And hi everyone, I'm Erica. I'm the marketing manager for Fashion Mingle and Student Mingle. So I'm just gonna be here to take everybody's questions. If you have any, put them in the comments in Facebook or in the Zoom, and we'll ask Joanna if you want to kind of give a shout out to where you're from and what school you're attending. You can also do that and we'll shout you out at the end. And this is going to be a fun discussion, so we're excited to have Joanna on and speak with her, and we hope you all get something out of this the same way we do. And take it away, Sarah.
Awesome. So just to start us off, where did you graduate from?
So I'm actually from North Carolina. So I went to a school called Appalachian State University. It's it's right in the Blue Ridge Mountains. So we're right next to Blue Ridge Parkway. It was beautiful. I loved it there.
Oh, wow. So what was your major?
I actually majored in marketing.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
Can you tell me the story about how you got involved in this line of work? Like what inspired you to pursue fashion and content creation?
Yeah, so I love this question. I just absolutely love style and I love beauty and I love New York. And so it's really just a natural thing that happened. So in college, so everybody at my school just wore like t-shirts and shorts and chacos, if you guys know what those are. And that was just like kind of like the culture there because we lived in the mountains. And so right after class, people would go hiking, or before class, they would come from hiking, or, at a waterfall or whatever it was. And so that was very practical there. I own about 5 t-shirts and I'm not really a chacos girl. So I was the one in school that I wore a dress, blazer, full face of makeup, had my nails done all the time, like hair done, heels every day, which people couldn't believe because living in the mountains, we really walked uphill both ways. And so I would say I kind of stuck out because of that. So I kind of became recognizable, you could say. And so from there, I just was posting pictures just like as I would normally do, like on my just regular Instagram. And then I found this photographer. She was amazing and she was a student, and now she's very successful out in LA. And she was looking for a couple to do a photo shoot. Well, I was newly single, so I was like, hey, I know I haven't met you before, but if there's a guy that wants to do it, I'm down to, let's just do something fun. So anyways, that weekend went, and I had a lot of mutual friends with the guy, but so we just were having such a fun time. And I realized, wow, this photographer is super talented, and she wanted to build her portfolio with the same type of images and style that I was really into. So it really was a natural fit. And so I was able to help her get that portfolio work, and then she was able to help me really push out content that I actually wanted to. And from there, that's how I started getting just hundreds of followers a week, just back when you could open up the app and wake up to hundreds of new followers. That was happening for me then. And then, so from there, I just kind of started making relationships with brands and other content creators and just kept falling in love with it. And now that I'm in New York, it's New York. So content creators are all around me and there's so many opportunities. And so it's just always been a very natural thing for me. And since I love style so much, that's what I would talk about anyways, no matter how many followers I have. Super natural for me. I love it.
That's awesome that you and the photographer both helped each other build your brand in a sense. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. So you've created a successful brand for yourself, from the ground up. Do you have any tips for students in establishing a brand?
Yeah, so really, because I've kind of mentioned, for me it was super natural. This is something I really am passionate about. So whatever that is for you, whether it's style, or if you love t-shirts and chacos, or if it's food or cocktails, or if you really are just so into your major, talk about it. Because if it's something that you naturally talk about anyways, then I'm sure other people would want to hear about it too. Another thing to keep in mind is that while you may think oh, there's already so many fashion bloggers, or there's so many sports commentators, whatever it is that you're passionate about, people still want to hear what you have to say in only the way that you can say it. Even if it's been said before, you'll be the first one to say it the way that you would. So just being authentic to who you are and talking about what you really love will translate well. People definitely can feel the authenticity. So if you're doing that, you will build an audience. And something I pride myself on is not just building an audience, but a real community. So I care about the people who are actually consuming my content. So I can tell you about their days because when I ask them about it, they'll tell me. And I know what they love and they know what I'm really into. And so it really is a community. It's like building just big friendships online. Yeah, so I feel like if you're gonna do it, then just be consistent. I think also people confuse the word consistency with frequency. So it's okay, if you can't post every single day. I don't post every single day, and I've never posted every single day. Even when I was working with that other photographer, we would work one day a month, and one day a month, just getting a bunch of shots, and then I would use those shots and post them throughout the rest of the month. So I was doing maybe 1 or 2 posts a week, but I was consistent. I had my days, I had my schedule, and that's what I could keep up with, and I wasn't stretching myself too thin or giving myself unrealistic goals or anything like that that was going to make me burn out or lose my passion for it. So that's the other big thing that I think of, is not confusing consistency with frequency, but being consistent and having a frequency that works for you and makes sense.
Right. And just like you were saying, the audience can definitely tell if you're passionate about what you're doing.
Totally. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Everyone definitely needs to go check out your website, by the way, with all your blogs and articles. There's so many great informative fashion, beauty, lifestyle resources, product reviews and styling tips. So what inspires these blogs articles?
So a lot of what has inspired, especially the ones that are on right now, I kind of weeded through some that I felt weren't really applicable to me anymore. I've just really grown up a lot over years. So, but what really inspires me now is events. I love going to events in the city. I'm super blessed. I get invitations. Well, I used to before COVID, get invitations to stuff all the time. And actually was at one last week. I went one with Fashion Mingle to the CoverGirl location when they were doing some things in February, and I love that. That really inspires me because I love when I can have those conversations with people and learn things about a brand or a collection or a product or project that I wouldn't always be able to read about. That is really where I get most of my inspiration from about what I'm going to post about. And then also just kind of what I see trending that I see other people really love that I also am whoa, I love that. Then I'm going to talk about it.
I love that. So what's been your favorite article you've written so far?
Ooh, good one. Okay, the first to come to my mind is one of the last events that I went to before this lovely city shut down was for PCA skincare. I think that was probably that was definitely one of my favorites. The event was so well done, went off without a hitch. The brand was so generous and really allowed us to really get to play with so many of their products. So many of them are over there. Got to meet the CMO and the CEO and so many skincare providers who actually work with the products every day. So I got to hear from that end too, not just the marketer telling me about it. I got to hear from people who work with it every day. That was such a good event, and I learned so much about chemical peels. And that is what I was able to write about in that article. And I loved it.
Wow. So do you have any tips and tricks for people that want to get into creating a blog?
Yeah, so kind of like I said, in the same vein of the consistency and frequency that you're able to do, don't overwhelm yourself also with the web design and stuff like that. Do what you're able to do. There are so many good resources out there to help you, but don't feel like you have to have the best camera and the best everything. My camera is an iPhone 7 of all things. I don't have the latest and greatest of everything. I could probably if I hired somebody to do my website, I can't imagine what it would look like. But I've done what works for me, and I'm excited to learn about everything from style and all of that to also the back end business part of it, the finances, the numbers, the relationships, the web design, like I mentioned, and all of that piece is really cool. So just do what you can do. Don't feel like you have to keep up with the Jetsons just because you see other people might have this amazing camera or whatever it makes sense in your niche that you're interested in. Yeah, do what makes sense for you, and you'll always be growing and evolving, and that's exciting. So don't compare your chapter 1 with somebody else's chapter 11, or even your chapter 11 with anybody else's chapter 50, you know.
I like that, like make the most of what you have. I know you've written articles and like attended Fashion Week events, which is so exciting. What has that experience been like for you?
So it's amazing. So in college, living in North Carolina, it wasn't so easy for me to get up to New York all the time, but I was getting invites just randomly. They started coming in from the agencies that would represent the brands and the designers. But because I was in North Carolina and I was a college student, I couldn't just go up to New York. I mean, what if I had a test? And many times there would be times that I'd be crying in my professor's offices because I'd be like, I really want to go, and when can we work out, please? Some professors were super understanding, like they wanted me to go. And then others were more on the side of like prioritizing school, which I understand. I was a student, so my job was to be a student. So that's kind of how it started, where I wasn't able to go, but I was getting invitations. Then I was so excited because then I moved to New York and I was like, I can say yes to things. I also have like a full-time job, so I wasn't able to say yes to everything that I wanted. But once opportunities started coming in that I could say yes to, I was so thrilled. So for example, the Cover Girl event with Fashion Mingle, that was on a Thursday evening. So I had my dress and my whole outfit. I brought it with me to work that day, and then just changed in the bathroom at work when I was done, headed right over to the event because when I worked from an office, I worked in Times Square, so it was like just an easy walk over. And so that made it much easier. And, you know, we're in Fashion Week right now and everything's been digital presentations. Although last week I was able to go finally to an event that was for a Macari beauty and skincare company. So I was able to go to that, and that wasn't an official part of the official New York Fashion Week, but, you know, just this time of year is so exciting. So being able to say yes to things when they are in person these days is super cool.
Wow. So how do you monetize yourself as a brand?
Yeah, so it really started more, mostly it's with sponsorships. So working with a brand and it being on kind of project basis. So, you know, if it's like a sponsored campaign or something like that. I also get packages and PR packages and mailers and stuff like that. And while that's awesome and I love that because then it helps me see what the brands that I already love are pushing out, also helps me get introduced to new brands. I'm expecting one today from a new brand that we connected via email. So that's really cool, but of course that doesn't pay the bills. So yeah, it's mostly project-based sponsorships for me. I'm trying to get more, I'm trying to build up my audience on Like to Know It, so you can find me there, just searching for Joanna Faith Williams. That way I can share things and people can buy it super easily and it won't cost any extra money for them. It's just super easy for them to find what I'm wearing or what I'm interested in that they also like. Just makes it super easy for them so they don't have to go look for it. Yeah, so I'm kind of trying to work out that revenue avenue as well.
So you say you do collaborations with brands. What are some brands you've worked with in the past or maybe working with now? And what is that process like?
Yeah, so one that my like dream, I couldn't believe it. In college, I was a part of Ulta's 21 Days of Beauty, like micro influencer group. And so that was a very nice one. What that looked like was so sometimes brands will reach out to you or you can reach out to them. Sometimes they're working with an agency and I'm not signed on with an agency or anything, but you know, part of their job is to, you know, look for other like influencers and content creators. So there was an agency that contacted me about it and I was like, yeah, right. Like Ulta doesn't care about me, right? But it worked out. And so what that looked like I mentioned, is the agency reached out to me. And from there, a lot of the times now, I've seen, and what I'm more interested in going into is really a collaborative effort. But there, while it was very collaborative, it's a big brand and they had like expectations of what they would be getting for A, their money, and B, it's a huge promotion. It's one of the biggest times of the year on the beauty calendar. So we're in it right now actually, and it ends on Saturday, I believe, for this period. But so they gave me like their expectations and kind of like the brand guidelines and everything. They were able to provide a gift card so that way I could select products that would be a part of the sale ahead of time. So that way I would have it in hand. So that way when once the sale was live, I could promote those products when they were on sale right then. And then for those, when I created the content, I believe I sent in those images for approval. You don't always have to do that with brand collaborations, but that's how this one worked. And then I think that those were approved just fine, but sometimes you might have to do 1 or 2 more revisions. And once they're approved, then it's super easy to be able to post. And so then we also were given calendar days to post, depending on what products it was that we wanted to promote that we had received. Because the way that their 21 days of beauty sale works is having certain products are on sale on only like 1 day. So that's kind of how that worked. And then I was able to direct people both to the Ulta website and to like a board where then they could select like other products that they were interested in. And so I was able to make both affiliate revenue off of that. I had the gift card for the products and then the payment for the actual content.
Wow. So like, do you normally post the photos on your Instagram, or like what social media do you normally share like the sponsorships with?
Yeah, Instagram is definitely my main platform. I'm really active on my stories. So especially when I get packages, I got a notification while I've been talking that the package got delivered. So I'll be posting about that today on Instagram when I open that up. But especially if I'm doing like in-feed posts, which I feel like is what a lot of brands want to actually have because it's more like permanent than just a 24-hour story, then it definitely would go on my Instagram feed. And then a lot of times from there, then you would see that same type of content, but in more of a long form post, of course, naturally on my blog. And then I used to be super active on Pinterest. So I was getting almost 1 million monthly views there. And so I want to like prioritize that again. I really love Pinterest. And I think it's
I love
easy.
Pinterest. I love Pinterest.
So
you said, what I found really interesting, you said that the brand gives you like a posting schedule. So like, how does that work? They tell you what days to post what pictures?
It can sometimes work that way, yeah. So and a lot of times it's going to coincide with a sale or promotion, or if they have like multiple content creators in on a campaign, then they need all of that content to go out at once, or staggered or whatever it is, but within the same like type of like period or like flight period. And so that way it's more of a concentrated message, especially if they have multiple content creators on it. It's super concentrated. People are going to be seeing that in their feeds from the multiple creators that they know and love. So you see that not only from like Ulta during their sale periods, but you know, I think of other fragrance brands come to mind, or other like style collections. You know, right now we're all seeing fall content. So I'm sure that there's stuff in the works from a lot of you know, brands about, you know, what they have coming out, especially with the holidays. You know, I mean, people are gonna I'm sure there's like some probably strict schedules around Black Friday to make sure that it hits the consumers before it goes on sale, so that way consumers can be looking for it and just ready to hit purchase.
Right, so that makes sense.
I just have a quick question. Yeah. So when you have to schedule things at a certain time and they give you times, obviously you're not sitting around all day like, oh, I have to post now. So do you use any tools like Buffer or Hootsuite or planning apps or anything to kind of keep you on a schedule, or just your calendar? I don't know.
Yeah, so I'm like certified in Hootsuite. I'm very familiar with that, with Planner and a lot of the other apps that are super popular. For some reason, I just have not been able to like get on a schedule with those. So my content calendar that I use is just in my Google Drive. I have it on my Google Calendar, like what I plan to post. I try to be 2 weeks ahead of planning. Ideally, I'd like to be 3 weeks ahead, but especially with this economy we're in now and like what's happening, it's kind of hard to plan ahead for like what people are going to need or even care about. And so then I have the images ready, especially if it's for a brand project where it's already been approved or whatever it is. Then I have them ready. I have the captions ready to go, so it's super easy for me to just copy and paste. And then also, if I already have it there, then it's also super easy for me to just schedule it or save it as a draft in my Instagram app. And then when I need to post it, I can just press post.
Nice.
Got it. Do you have any like specifically, since you say Instagram's your main like social channel, like specific Instagram tips, because you have so many followers and you obviously do all these ads, but you also just post stuff like specifically about yourself, like anyone does on their Instagram.
I also want to know how you edit your pictures, because I think they're so pretty on your Instagram.
So yeah, let's just talk Instagram for a second.
I love Instagram.
Every student's on Instagram. Who doesn't want a perfect picture? Do you use like hashtags? Do you like try and avoid those because there's so many different opinions just on that. Do you like to tag people? Do you hate tagging? Because you know you could hashtag everything, like dogs of Instagram, just to get people on your picture, even if it's not. So kind of what are your Instagram hacks,
we need all the tips and tricks.
Yeah, just go.
Sounds good. Yes, that kind of like covers the gamut. So I'll start from like the creation process to once I post it and kind of what that looks like. So you know, I have the images like taken, and I have just been taking them like by myself recently because of like social distancing and just being careful. So I have a little tripod around here somewhere, and then I just go around New York or just my neighborhood, honestly, because I'm too afraid to get on the subway right now because of germs. But I just stay in my neighborhood, take the image, and then when I get back, I'm a huge Facetune queen. Love that. And then I also I've been using the Adobe suite for a while. I had multiple internships in college. I had 4, and so I was able to like really learn a lot that way through the Adobe suite. One that I didn't have a ton of experience on like other projects and internships was Lightroom, but because I kind of already knew the Adobe suite, I knew that that was an option for me and that the mobile version is free. So I use that, and then I just add on my little preset that I love, and I'm a big pink fan, like everything I own is pink, so so most of the content that you'll see has been edited to have not just like a pink filter, but to bring out the pinks. Sometimes it looks like there's like purples bringing out too, but I think it's just natural when so much of the city is windows, and so then it reflects the blue sky, and then a pink over that kind of turns it into like a faint purple. Yes, that's kind of how that goes as far as the editing process. Then when I'm creating my captions, I really like to I don't even think that it's something I like thought of that I intentionally did just because I like it, but I realize most of what I say is very conversational. I'm a big talker, in case you can't tell. So my captions are really what I'm thinking about, or like the quote that I saw that I absolutely love that I probably found on Pinterest, and stuff like that. I definitely tag everything that I'm wearing, every brand, everything. And it's not only so that people find me in for example, like Zara, like if I were to tag them, I don't know how many people are actually on the Zara page and looking at who has tagged them, but I do that so that maybe I can get the brand's attention. Sometimes that works, which has been awesome. Not with Zara, that'd be great. But just other types of brands or just people, or sometimes I tag the person who said the quote, for example, like Morgan Harper Nichols. Sometimes one time she like commented on my post and I was like, wow. So that's kind of how that is and works. And then as far as hashtags, you're totally right, Erica. There are so many different like thoughts and processes that people go through. So some people love to use the max of 30. Some people say, no, it looks spammy, or the algorithm like pushes it down because of that. While the algorithm is constantly changing, and I don't know many creators who are a fan of it, I think if Instagram is providing the space for 30 hashtags, that it's okay to use it. Recently, in the most recent pictures that I've posted, I haven't been doing that, but I actually used to have and I still like know it, like have such a built out hashtag strategy. That was, I think, how I was building my audience so like just very fast in the beginning. So tracking the hashtag, how many posts are in it. You don't want something that's too big, but you also don't want something that's too small because no one's looking at it. What does the engagement look like on like the top 9 posts, or like the recent ones? Is it similar to what yours is? Does it look like you could get up in the top to be seen? That type of thing. That was part of my method, and I have really crazy spreadsheets of it. And it sounds crazy, but it worked for me. And so there's so many philosophies about that, but I guess I kind of go back and forth. If I have the energy, then I'll put it in and I'll do all the hashtags, but sometimes I just want to post the picture. And so that's what I do. And then probably about 15 or 30 minutes before I post the image, I'm engaging, and I'm constantly engaging with like my audience and people who I follow, but especially right before then, and then especially after as well. After is then when I'll go into the hashtags that I've actually just used, comment on other people who've just used it, and that's been cool. I've actually this sounds weird, friends that way. So just like other content creators that I've been able to connect with, and then we follow each other and we really do like each other's content, so we just stay in contact that way. So
when you are working with a brand, does the caption have to be approved?
Sometimes, yeah. Other times, I would say most of the time I actually haven't encountered that. But I know that on like larger budget campaigns, that's something I would probably expect. But what I really admire from a lot of the creators that I've spoken with and have like regular conversations with is that sometimes they may get feedback from a brand saying that, oh, we want you to change this part of it or whatever. But like in some cases that makes sense. It's a business like transaction and like collaboration and partnership, right? So you want to make sure that your client, who is the brand that you're promoting, is happy, but also they are paying you because they love your voice. So it kind of there's like that line that only you can decide of like, well, how much are you going to let a brand like influence what you say, because they're hiring you because they like what you say. So you don't want them to change who you are, and it's okay to push back if you feel like they're trying to change you.
Because of that, since Instagram's like your main platform, and that's how brands kind of get you to advertise for them, do you see your Instagram account as your own brand, or do you see it as like, this is just my account, it's the same way everyone else is using social media, like I just want people to know what's going on with me? Or do you really see it as like, this is kind of my part-time business, my side gig?
Yeah, so in college, I would say I had more of that, like, this was funding my college. So not college, oh gosh, I wish I would have paid for my tuition. That's not what I mean. But like as a student, this was like my job. I had other jobs in college too, but this was consistent for me. And I loved it the most. So I naturally put more time into it. Whereas now, so since I've moved, and I've talked a little about it like on my blog and on my Instagram, towards the end of college, I had a bad injury. And so I took like just such a major hiatus from it. I'm like slowly coming back, and so easy to always make all these excuses. But, I'm living in New York City, so I'm done with excuses. I love going to events, and I don't want to just rely on events for inspiration. So I've been like trying to find like my new groove. So I would say now it functions as, I can't say it's really a side gig at the moment, but building it back up to be, is what I want. And I still think of it as a brand because, really all of us have our own personal brand. So when I think of some of my friends, I immediately think of, oh, they are such a cardigan girl, or they love fall, or he is such a basketball person, whatever it is. So we all have something that identifies us that, like, as soon as people see it, they think, oh, that's that friend of mine. And I feel like because I really am like very myself on my platform. It is both myself, but also just a natural personal brand. And I'm only posting about things that I genuinely love and really do use all the time. And I don't post about every event, but if I don't feel like I'm really connecting, but if it feels like me and something that I love, then of course I'm going to post about it because I want to talk about the things that I love, and the audience responds well to that too.
Great.
Speaking of networking, I know you've been quoted by some like large magazines, including Wall Street Journal, Reader's Digest, and more. How did you form those relationships?
Yeah, those were cool. So those were like very pinch me moments. So I think that I had always had the idea that to be in or to be quoted or even connect with journalists at like publications like that you had to really be somebody and, have all these accolades and everything. But really what I realized is, these people have a job to do. They need sources. They have projects and pieces that they're writing about. So they want to connect with whoever can give them that story. And not to say that a journalist is, writing it only in their perspective, but, they want to hear their answer to what they're looking for. And not just what they want to hear, but just a true answer. And so when I was kind of realizing like, oh, okay, that's how this happens. And I was thinking, okay, well, what stories do I have that I can tell? And really all of them have tied back to my blog and Instagram. So for example, in the Wall Street Journal, that was an article about screen snooping. So about people like watching over your shoulder, like looking at your computer or like reading your text when you're next to somebody on an airplane. Well, when I was interning in New York in 2017, there was an older gentleman who was making me a little bit uncomfortable and looking at my computer and asking me very specific questions. And I was like, hey, you're looking at my computer and being kind of creepy. But then this guy next to me, he was more my age, and he acted like he was friends with me to try to get that guy to kind of back off a little bit, which I appreciated. We're actually still friends on Snapchat, haven't seen him since, but we've talked. And so anyways, then I was able to tell that journalist, like, hey, this is what happened with me when I was screen snipping. You know, I was working on my blog, and that's true. I didn't make that up. Like, I really was. And this is how, like, that happened. But then, look, like, I made, like, a great friendship out of it. And, you know, just stuff like that. So it was very, like, natural, but it was, like, a different type of perspective, I guess, instead of me just, it was more of, like, a story than just, hey, I have a blog, come look at it. You know, it's more the story part of it that people care more about. You know, I think they'd rather hear about something than be told, like, talked at. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah, and so that's kind of how I realized that could happen, and that's kind of how those like connections formed. And you know, there's always journalists tweeting like, "Hey, I need a source for this," or just like around, because there are things like that, and great resources for it, and that's where I found some of it. And then once you kind of have that in with them, then you can keep contact with them, and they'll maybe like ping you for other things that they need. And so there's another spreadsheet I have is of the journalists that I've been in contact with, and what they also write about, because then that way, if I do have a project or something that I would love to like have it told in a publication, you know, I can reach out to them and be like, hey, like, it was great working with you on this project. If you're writing about anything related to style or quarantine style or whatever, like, I'd love to like pitch in or help out if that would be helpful. And just kind of keeping those relationships like that.
Right, that's awesome. So I know this has been kind of like a crazy 6 months for everyone with like COVID and everything. How did COVID affect your networking in the beauty and fashion industry?
Great question. So because so much of my networking, I feel like, happens at events. And I remember the week in March, Friday was the 13th. And I remember that week because I had so many events coming up, and I was like, please don't get canceled. But I was also asking myself, Joanna, should you really be going to these? Like, I don't know. And that was when the cancellations just kept rolling in, and it was so sad. But because of that, it's definitely harder. But I think it's also been cool to be able to like cultivate more of a stronger relationship with the people who I have met online that I've made friendships with, and then been able to stay in contact with, met at events and then be able to stay in contact with online. One of them in particular, she and I are going to get coffee when we can, but, or like get a drink or something, but I haven't seen her since I was at the event, probably in February. But it's just kind of been cool that way, where it's not so much like new people and new networking and connections, but more investing time and building upon foundations of the relationships that I've already been able to make. I'll also say at the event that I was at last week, there were so few people. They were saying like only one media outlet would come in at a time, and we'd have like 20-minute like times to be able to go in, and then you have to go. But because it was on a rooftop, there were a couple other people, and since it was like super ventilated out there, like we all just kind of like sat on different couches that were there. And what I found was so cool is that because there were so few of us, it felt more conversational. And so we were able to really have conversations about, you know, state of the industry and just life and who we are as people, not just what we do online. So that was really cool and exciting, and I hope that there's more opportunities to be able to network like that, not just small talk like, oh, hey, what do you do? Here's your business card. Okay, great. Yeah, we'll keep in touch. It's like, what do you really care about? Who are you? Where are you from? Like, tell me about your neighborhood. I don't know, just whatever it is. So I kind of see it shifting more into that, which is what I'm very excited about. But, you know, events are
Right, actually forming like relationships and friendships with networks. That's awesome. I know you love New York. You like post about it in your blogs and post pictures about it. I love New York. Now that New York is opening back up, what are your plans?
Good question. So I've been kind of just in contact with some of the local, one local restaurant in particular, about like seeing like, how can I help promote anything that's going on with you? Like, if you're participating in the restaurants who are opening soon, what can I do to help to make sure people know, you know, get the word out? And kind of coming out from that like service angle of like, I actually want to tell people about it because it's such a great restaurant. So how can I help? Not just, you know, hey, things are opening up, you should sponsor me. I'm excited for that. I'm also excited to be able to like go shopping again and just see, although I'm really cheap, so when I go shopping, I don't even buy anything, but just seeing what's
Just nice to
happening.
walk around, shop around. I'm the same way.
Yeah, like what are the trends? What's coming out? What's happening for the holiday season? I'm really interested to see what happens in New York for the holidays. The Macy's Thanksgiving Parade is going virtual this year for probably the first time ever, and it'll just be crazy to see, okay, well, what about, you know, like more of the December holidays? What's going to happen with all the normal New York traditions? You know, will the Rockefeller tree still be up? Will it be as insanely crowded as it normally is on Christmas Day and people going to see the tree? Can I go ice skating at Rockefeller? You know, just all these classic New York winter things. We'll see what happens, but whatever does happen, I'm excited to discover it. But I will be waiting a couple weeks after like new things open, just to make sure that there's not a spike, just to be conscious of my own health and the health of my community that I surround myself with and interact with all the time. So we'll see what happens, but yeah.
So kind of to backtrack to talk about events that you've covered, how do you find these fashion events? Do they reach out to you? And how do you choose which events to actually attend?
Yeah, so I've been super lucky. They've all come to me. A lot of times it's agencies or PR agencies or sometimes the brand themselves. I'm not sure how they find me. I would love to know, probably just from their own research. And, you know, I tag where I'm at and I tag brands that I'm really wearing all the time. So probably a little piece of that. And then as far as choosing the ones that I'll go to, really, if I'm available, I want to be there, you know. And like I said before, if I'm not feeling super connected to it when I'm there, then I probably won't share it. Or maybe I'll say like what I'm doing, but not be like, oh my gosh, you know, I'm not going to just talk about a product that I don't care about. So, but at the event that I was at last week, like the packaging, I hadn't even tried it yet, but all I could talk about was the packaging because it was so beautiful. And like now I have some, they sent us home with some people to like talk about that, which I'll be posting about next week. Now, like once I have time to actually play with it. But yeah, if I can be there, I'm going to be, you'll see me there.
Have you attended any virtual events like over the past 6 months, and like how was it virtually? What was that experience like?
Yeah, it was really like the first one, I guess you could say, would be on Sunday, so the first day of New York Fashion Week. Just seeing the digital presentation. So I can't, I guess, say that that was like a digital event or virtual event. There wasn't really, I don't know, in those you're not connecting with people or have a way to communicate with whoever else is watching or experiencing it with you. I haven't seen any virtual events, not that I've been invited to or to be a part of. I'm not sure how those would go. I can't really imagine.
Right. That's why I was curious. I was like, how would that even go? But
yeah, I don't know. Who knows? I mean, maybe there'll be more of that. And I think if there's a way that brands could do it. I mean, at the one that I was at last week, like I said, there were so few of us there, but I was able to like sit down and have a drink with the CMO of the company. I mean, that's just crazy. So it's like, you know what brands will do something even virtual where they have like, even if it's just 5 minutes or just a couple minutes of like a one-on-one with somebody that's scheduled to kind of build a relationship that way. Who knows? I think there's a lot of possibilities and opportunities for brands to be super creative, and you have to be creative and be able to pivot and evolve, especially in this type of world we're in and year that we're in. So who knows?
And especially use social media, because that's such a big thing right now, trying to keep everyone connected.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Just because I'm a recent graduate and I know a lot of people who are watching are obviously college students or recent graduates as well, kind of what I always found difficult is networking is just like such an odd thing to me, because it's like, how do I walk up to someone? Do I give them a business card? What am I even pitching about myself? Is that elevator pitch they teach us in school actually doing anything? Like, it's just like a lot of stuff in your head of like, I don't know how to do this. And if you're not, and I don't consider myself shy or anything at all, but I just found it like awkward, uncomfortable. So what are kind of your tips, even strictly like, I guess not in person or virtual, just networking tips in general, of kind of how you go about doing that, how you go about kind of getting rid of the anxiousness or the shyness or the, like, what do you do?
Yeah, so
in general.
Yeah, I also, at Appalachian, we had so many opportunities to network. They were constantly doing networking socials. So, like, especially within the business school, I was super, super involved both in a sorority and SGA, or Student Government Association, to our club council, which is our administrative board over all the clubs, just to so many things. And so I had a lot of opportunities that way to network with students that I really looked up to, that I was like, I want to be like them. Like they're amazing. Like so with peers, and then also giving the confidence to network with my professors. Like, how can I actually build not just a student professor relationship, but like professional and like a professional relationship as well, so they know what my goals actually are, and you know, I can cheer them on with what they're working on too. So that's kind of like how I felt like I got practice, so to speak. And then at networking events, what I just told myself is, you know, the worst thing that can happen is they could say no, they could hate me, whatever. And the best thing that could happen is that it becomes a great connection or back pocket contact. And you know, if the worst thing does happen, that they say no, then it doesn't change anything. It's just that they said no. But if you don't even give yourself the chance to have a conversation with somebody, then you're giving yourself the answer no. So, and maybe to some people, they feel more comfortable with just like the fear of rejection and just they're fine with giving themselves the answer no. But I'm not, and at least in most situations. And so I'll put myself out there, and especially in New York, you know, you might, if the answer is no, or if it isn't like if you don't hit it off with them, then you might never see them again, and so move on with your life. But hopefully you will see them again, and that's why you would want to have that, you know, friendship and connection with them. As far as the elevator pitch, what's funny is the job that I do full time now, I actually was in the elevator with the president of the company, and I didn't even know that but we had like a conversation in the elevator. I didn't give my elevator pitch, but I just remember telling myself, Joanna, you're in New York, you have no idea. I'm from North Carolina, like I said, so I was just amazed and so inspired by anybody that I would walk past. And so I was just thinking to myself, like, oh my gosh, like, I don't know who this is, so let's just be nice and, you know, tell them about me if he asks, but also I like to hear about other people too. I don't want to talk about myself too much. And so, you know, we just had like a great little small conversation. It was just a couple floors up from the lobby. But then at the end of these like hours of interviews, one of them says, oh, I heard that you met this person. And I was like, yeah, in the elevator. And she was like, oh, he's the president of blah, 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 blah. And I was like, oh my gosh. And I couldn't wait to tell my parents, and I couldn't wait to tell my boyfriend. And I was like, and oh my gosh, I told professors too. I was like, I had the elevator moment, you know, it happens in real life.
It's funny, they like always give you that scenario in class.
Yeah,
They're like, you walk in the elevator with the president of the company of 30 seconds, and it actually happened to you.
Exactly. And I remember telling my mom, I was like, I am in New York. Like, where else did that happen? Like, it's just so crazy and cool. And, you know, he didn't know. And so anyways, in the elevator, I told him, you know, I was like, he was like, oh, I haven't seen you. And I was like, yeah, I'm here for an interview. Super excited. Like, I'm a recent college grad. You know, it was like quick. I was like, I'm a recent college graduate and had like multiple internships. And I actually had interned like 3 blocks, like just around the corner. And I was like, yeah, like a couple years ago, I interned around the block. So I just love this area. And, you know, I'm hoping for the best, really excited. And, he's like, well, that's awesome. And then I don't know if he had a part to play in me getting the job, but I'll never know. But because I had that conversation with him, that could have been a contribution to the answer yes that I got. And that's what I'm doing now, and super blessed to still have a job in New York right now. So yeah, it's really cool. I think you shouldn't be afraid, because you just never know what can happen, and that's the beauty of it. It's the exciting part for me.
Yeah. Well, obviously a lot of people are out of jobs, but a lot of things are remote now. So do you have any suggestions or tips of going about kind of getting a job that way? Because it's not like I can give someone an elevator pitch if no one's getting into elevators. So
yeah. So my method, so I guess like what comes to mind is also what I did when I was living in North Carolina and I wasn't here to be able to have those moments. I applied to so many jobs on LinkedIn and I paid to have the premium version for many reasons. One, so that I could see how many people actually applied, so that I wasn't applying to a job that had literally thousands of applications within 24 hours that my application wouldn't be seen. So for that, or also many times then you can also see who the actual job poster was, and you get like LinkedIn credits to be able to message them and for them to hopefully be able to see it. So my suggestion is, if you have it on LinkedIn, or even if you're using another type of platform, literally just try to contact every single person that you can. So when there are many Appalachian grads up here, and I'm actually on the board for our Alumni Association chapter up here. So I know that there are many up here, but it's kind of hard to get in touch again, like when you're in the South and it's many states away. But what I would do is, because so many people do have LinkedIn, when I was applying to jobs, I wouldn't just stop at sending my resume, which I would also change for every single job I applied to make sure it fit the description. I would also send a cover letter and change that for every single job application. Then I would look at the company, see how many app grads, how many graduates from your university went there, contact every single one of them, reach out, be like, hey, I'm from North Carolina, I'm super excited, I'm super motivated, I want to be there. Do you have a couple of minutes to chat with me on the phone or whatever it was? Then also contacting the job poster, send in your, attach your resume and cover letter to that same conversation and say, here it is again for easy reference. I've submitted it through the application, but here you go again for easy reference. I also would submit it, then I would go to the company website, and if I could find the job posting there, then I would send the same materials in there, looking everywhere I could for emails. And it sounds like it's a lot of work, and it is, but I got a job and it worked. And I know right now it's really hard because, so many things are closed down, and especially coming off of many months of just huge rounds of layoffs and furloughs. But you know what, we're headed into Q4 and companies need help. And businesses need stuff, and they're hiring remotely. Today, I found out that one of my friends who's been applying a job since February, bless his heart, or probably March, he just posted today. He secured a job, and it's remote, but he said to me, he was like, even though I'm not in New York for it, he said, this is my foot in the door. When things open up, I'll be there, and I'll have a job to go to. And he's keeping a very positive outlook to it. So things are out there. It's going to be competitive, but if you constantly are contacting everybody you can that you can find that's possibly linked to that job application, some of them will notice. You're not going to be able to get in contact with every single one of them, of course, but I hate to say it's a numbers game because it's really not, but the more that you do put yourself out there, the more connections you will make. So just ask questions, comment on things on LinkedIn, or I know I keep talking about LinkedIn, that's my favorite professional platform. Wherever you are, just comment, ask companies hey, what do you need help with? Are you hiring? If not, what can I do? Connect with them on their social medias and do everything that you can, because people will notice. And it's a great story to be able to tell once you do land that interview about how much you wanted to work here. Here's all the ways that I try to connect, and I'm really passionate about this, and that will speak volumes.
Yeah, well, those are all great tips, and I think everyone should try them. Speaking of just making connections, you've talked about a lot of your past internships. Do you think those helped you kind of get a foot in the door, and did they help you with either your current full-time job or your content creation job?
Yes to all of the above. So as far as the content creation piece, my first internship was doing social media, and I just graduated high school. I hadn't even started college yet, but I was just so excited by the word intern, and so I was like, I'm going to be able to call myself an intern. So I took it not knowing anything, and but I realized, wow, I really love this. And that's when I decided, okay, I'm going to major in marketing. Let's just see what happens. And I was super blessed. I never changed my major. And then from there, I had 3 additional internships. One of them was, again, doing social media. I guess 2 more of them, were social media. One had a lot more of web-based. So then I was able to say, hey, here's what I do on my blog. I can help you with your website, and kind of the back end pieces of that, and the graphic design. And another internship that I had it turned into mainly graphic design, which is how I got to know the Adobe suite. But it was also everything from web stuff to article creation and stuff like that. And then my 4th one that I just loved and learned the most from was in New York City. It was on 5th Avenue, 2 blocks, I think, from Empire State Building. Just couldn't believe that I was doing it. And I think that it helped that I had already had internships, because I think coming from the South, I had to have something to give myself an edge, because I'm not from New York. I didn't go to, these great schools up here. So there was nothing or no one to speak for me other than my own self. And so having those, I think, helped. Then when I was there, I just threw myself into it, and I asked questions every day, tried to learn and soak up as much as I possibly could. That was at a PR agency, and that was when I learned how to pitch. And that is how I got and learned the resources and kind of learned how that industry works. And then the first thing I found myself in was Reader's Digest, and then a month later it was in Self Magazine, and then it was in Self Magazine again, and then it was in the Wall Street Journal, and kind of like, and then many more since. So it's, you know, kind of snowballed from there. So what was important to me is that I could say, not only have I had these internships, but here's how I can prove that I learned what I was taught, because I've been able to apply it to my own brand, my own Instagram project, and here are the results. So I wasn't just taught it, I really learned it, and I soaked it up, and I've applied it. I would say that that was a great story that I was able to say in an interview. And it was something different that many people probably don't hear that a lot. So I think that helped me stand out, which again was really hard and needed coming from the South. Never have ever lived here before, and yeah.
Well, do you have any like last pieces of advice that you would give to a student or a recent graduate about just breaking into the fashion industry in general? So not even in a specific field, just you want to be in the fashion or beauty industry in some respect. What would kind of be like your piece of advice for them?
Good. I would say I keep learning about roles in the industry that I didn't even know even existed. Mm-hmm. Like, just do your research, watch things, read as much as you can. There are an unbelievable amount of like jobs and types of jobs and things that people need help with that you couldn't even imagine. I'm sure there's stuff that I can't even imagine right now. One of my roommate right now is applying to fashion jobs up here, also coming in from North Carolina, and I'm just amazed at what she's able to find and like what is really out there that I had no idea existed. It's like, be creative, be willing to be flexible. It's okay. Like, you don't have to have a certain job title you want. Care more about what you'll be doing day to day. It's really amazing. And so whether it's like a career path like that, or if you want to have like a platform, you know, just talk about what you are loving and what are you consuming. Because other people are probably consuming the same type of content or maybe hearing about the same things. And what's your spin on it? What do you think? Like, tell people online, and you know, you can kind of find it that way too. So there's really so many opportunities, and I think that there's the only limit is whatever limit you put on yourself. It is a creative industry, so you get to be creative here and kind of make your own path and make your own way into what piece of it you're passionate about.
Yeah, that's great. Well, I want to thank you, Joanna, for being on and speaking with us. It was great to hear from you and give all of your advice. I'm definitely going to try everything you said. So we'll see how that all works out.
Definitely going to take your editing advice for Instagram, but thank you so much.
You guys can all connect with Joanna on Fashion Mingle, or you can follow her on Instagram at JFW Fashion. Mm-hmm. And you can read her blog at joannafaithwilliams.com. Make sure you go create a Student Mingle profile so you can connect with Joanna and everyone else like Joanna. You can watch this back on YouTube. And yeah, thank you everyone for joining, and we hope you'll join us for the next one.
Thank you so much, y'all. This is
great to have you.